So we are live everywhere. How are you? Let's make sure we're getting our video signal going. Making sure my internet's working. Let's see, still saying no signal. Uh-oh. Well, we'll act as if we have a signal. Oh, there we go. Hi, we're live officially now. Well, I'm so excited everybody's here. I had to get some tea, right? We're going to spill the tea today. I'm so excited. I have a guest with me today, one of my fellow Women Who Shine sisters, and she reached out, like an hour ago and was like, hey, I want to know about the spilling tea about becoming a published author. And since we've been on this road and journey together, I was like, come on with me. So Anne, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited that you're here.
Yeah. Glad you reached out.
Yeah, I was like, hey, of course, I think it was Saturday when I decided to do this because I noticed, oh, Monday is National Book Lovers Day. Hey, and I started thinking about how a lot of times people are reaching out, asking a bunch of questions about, hey, how did you have time to do that? Or what are you up to? Or anything like that. So what's exciting is we're going to spill all the tea on all that stuff. Basically, oh, I think Anne might have froze. She told me she might. She said that her internet is not the best. So, Anne, if you drop off, just sign back in. I'll let you in. Oh, there you are. You unfroze. There you go. So, since it's National Book Lovers Day, I thought it would be super fun to talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff that nobody thinks about. And I'm going to check on, because we're kind of live streaming everywhere. So if you guys have questions, I am going to check on Facebook to see if you are posting any of your questions for us. But we are everywhere. Okay, so let me just make sure I have access and can see everyone's questions where we are. Yes, yes. Okay, very good. Sometimes it's delayed though. So if you guys put a question and I don't see it right away, do not worry. We're on delay because we're live streaming. So let's get back to the tea, right? You got your tea? Good. So some of the things that people ask are like, okay, well, how do you have time? As a busy mom, business owner, how would you have time to become a 2-time published author? And the thing is that sometimes you have to give stuff up. If it wasn't for having the support system of people all around me, I would never be able to do it. So I'm so grateful. I was just talking to the kids, like friends, their moms help out so much. If it wasn't for like the moms in my neighborhood saying, hey, do you want us to take the kids and do this? Because I could never do it all. There's been a lot of stuff to hit with deadlines. Wouldn't you agree, Anne?
Absolutely.
Like, you have to figure out what works, I think, and then you have to rely on those people around you that are willing to help. And that was a huge challenge, I think, for me. I wasn't comfortable saying, please help me. So that was an obstacle that I had to get over. Have you ever been in that situation?
I'm sorry, I have to get used to the working with you on this. So Zooming and live streaming is new. And for me, when I was writing my own book, which right now I'm going through the edit process, is the number one, the courage to do it. Mm-hmm. And secondly, the courage to commit. And honestly, I was working full-time at a full-service ag center. So for retail ag, that is very early in the morning and long, long days. So during that time frame, I didn't write. I wrote maybe on a weekend. But when in the off season, I got up at 4:30 and I wrote for a half an hour to 45 minutes. And I made that commitment. And amazingly, it built the body of the book. And even if you can commit to 5 minutes a day, you will be surmountably surprised at how much work you can get done. So the biggest thing is giving yourself permission to do it. Then commit a slot of time. It doesn't have to be more than a half an hour. Half an hour works for me because that's what my juices go. And once I get going, time flies.
Yeah, I'm actually the same way. That's funny because before I started writing my very first book, I remember I was in a training workshop with John Maxwell, and he is like published, I don't know, more books than anyone. He's like a huge leadership author. And I remember him saying that people said to him all the time, I really want to be a writer and I really want to be an author. And he would be like, cool. How much time do you spend every day writing? And they were like they didn't. So for me, I remember going, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. You have to practice daily. So it was like, from that moment on, I made writing a part of my everyday practice, which then eventually did become a book. But it first had to start with making writing part of your practice. And the funny thing is because I remember it was like since I was 9 years old, I remember having a dream of, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author. So that was like, you had this dream. And then I didn't really remember that I had it until I found this thing at my parents' house when they had moved out of our childhood home. That was this craft. And it said that I had made this fake book, and it said that I was like a New York Times 10-time bestselling author or something. I'm like, oh, so this is a real dream. I better get to work. And it was all along the same time as all these different things were happening. So I started making time for it. And if I would like have something earlier in the morning where I couldn't write, then I would say, okay, on my way home from work, I'm gonna pull over at a park and I would dedicate my half hour then. Like, so I ended up getting committed enough and then rearranging my schedule, like, cause things are, it's not if something comes up, it's when. So that was definitely an interesting time for me too. That's funny that you mentioned that.
The other thing that I would recommend is a writer's workshop of some way or form. And I attended a Hay House writer's workshop. Okay. And that was my biggest commitment. And you have such a takeaway because, it's like attending your Maxwell training or a Canfield training. It pumps you up. Mm-hmm. And they give you so many suggestions on how to write, how to manage your time. And then what do you do with it? Now that you've got it done, where do you go with it? So you have that manual in your hand that you can go back to for encouragement. Meditation, writer's block, meditate, man. Just you got to take the time, because if you're stuck, you're going to put more pressure on yourself. So you almost have to stop and breathe and start over.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I think I have the ultimate remedy for writer's block that I'll share today, and it is that I always write based on what I'm feeling. So it doesn't matter what type of book you're writing, but if you sort of like write out the outline of your topics, like just to make things easy, say you have 12 chapters, just because that seems to be an easy math, right? So if you have 12 chapters, you could do something as simple as write the chapter on like a Post-it or the title on a recipe card, something. And I would carry that in my purse at all times. And as those things would come up for me, like something that was in line with that topic, like, I don't know, like I had an experience where somebody either like really exceeded an expectation when I was like out in the world, then I would add that to the book, or something was really bad service or experience, then that would go in. So anytime I would have those little experiences like that, I would just in my phone make a note to myself. You remember this, remember at the restaurant when Sally did this. And then when I had the time the next day to sit down and do the writing, it was like so easy. So easy.
That is awesome advice, Tracy. Whenever you have an idea, and most of us carry our cell phones on it, I have a notes and I just go in and I'll write it down because I won't remember it. Or I will remember, go, what was that? And then you trip yourself up on it and you don't remember. The other thing you can add to it is keep a small little journal, just even a little notebook or a piece of paper and a pen. So when you wake up in the middle of the night, and you will, because when you start writing, these ideas come to you.
They do.
Write it down so that you can, pick that up in the morning, and when you have time to deal with it, write on it. I'm not one of these people that can get up and go write. Sleep is valuable.
Well, I would get so excited that I would continue to write all the time. The way it all happened, it was like, oh, okay, just keep writing and just, have fun with it. So I just got notification that we are not live everywhere I thought. So to those of you that are watching, I apologize if this is not live where you thought it would be, but I will save the recording and make sure that we re-stream it. Make sure. Okay. It's so crazy. Streaming is awesome when it works. Then you get to be everywhere, right? Spilling the tea. What other challenges did you run into, Anne, when it came to writing?
Myself. I am a good self-sabotager. So that's mindset. And I'm a big Wayne Dyer fan. And Wayne always says, don't die with your dreams still in you. Don't die with your magic in you. And that one always comes back to me. And if I can help one person, and just writing my own memoir, which is Finding You is in all capitals, Finding You is finding God, overcoming abuse, depression, and fear. So when you have that depressed mindset, you can really defeat yourself quite easily. So I was my biggest obstacle, the biggest block, and I still am. So I really have to push myself to keep moving forward. So don't let your dream just sit there, because it's going to come up later. It might come up 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and it's going to burn, and it's going to burn inside you. And you need to act on that feeling.
You're so right. It is true. Like sometimes it is getting like out of our own head, right? And realizing that if I could just help one person out, I focus on them and get myself out of the way. Those are always the things that helped me, because I think we all go through those moments of, oh, does anyone really care? Is anyone going to like this? Like, oh, what if everyone makes fun of me? It was just like natural things. But when we focus on, hey, just that one person out there, if one person is struggling and gets to read the story and it helps them in some way, then it's worth it. So that for me, especially with the Women Who Shine book, because this is much more personal, it's really one of those things of like, okay, it's like, it's hard to go through. And it was like heavy to go through the process of sharing that. And I'm excited now to share it with the world, but it was definitely walking myself through a mindset process to get there and have faith in the fact that, hey, this is going to help someone, because if I would have had that, I wouldn't have struggled as much.
It's also that healing tool for you, because you had to go back and face whatever it was in the past and write about it. And that's raw. And my book for me was very raw. So in the edit phase right now, I'm going, that was rather little on the dark side. We need to brighten this up a bit. So it's where you're at in that moment, and just write. Don't stop yourself. Don't edit. Just write, because that's what you hire an editor for, is to come in behind the scenes and take out your repetition. And it's a lot of fun. It's work, but it's a lot of fun. The other suggestion I have is to focus on your why. Why are you doing it? Sit with that why. And when not everyone knows their purpose, and there's nothing wrong with that, because you'll eventually figure it out. It will, bing, the light comes on, God taps you on the top of the head and you figure out your purpose. And all of a sudden, your whys will start to line up with your purpose. And that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. That's then you really know you're on the right track. I love that.
Yeah. So don't second guess yourself.
Yeah. Cause then you'll read, I remember moments of rereading Beyond Common, 12 Essentials for Success in Life in the Workplace, and going, wait a minute. I even got goosebumps when I was reading. I was like, oh, that was when you go back after all the edits and how many times it's been rewritten and whatever. And there's a line, somebody will send me or something, happens, or I reread it. I'm like, oh, I had to be really connected spiritually and in flow at that moment. Cause that is good. So you will eventually get to that point, but it's still the dips of oh, it's
Yep.
not a straight line. Cause people are how did you do that? Or have the confidence? It's no, you're still talking yourself through it, through the mindset ups and downs, but then you will get to those moments that you're oh, that is really good. So I just always trust that I must have been really tapped in that moment, spiritually, okay, this is what was supposed to be served up to the world.
Yeah. My chapter in Shine took me 3 times. And when I finally had my visit with Kate to kind of get an idea, I already had it written because I had some personal things going on that I had a time frame. I had to get it done by February. That was it had to be done. And when I sat down with it, I'm trying to take my book, which is around between 50 and 60,000 words. It keeps getting bigger, and want to cram that into a chapter. And I started out with 5,000 words. And then the second attempt I got a little better. It was 4,000 words. And finally, I just got to the point of, okay, God, this is not working for me because I'm forcing it. And I just said, I trusted my hands and said, this is it. You're writing it. Yeah. And within an hour, I had trashed the other 2. I started completely over, and it was boom, 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 boom. And it all came through.
Yeah.
Yes. In case you deleted your first 2 chapters. I'm yes, I did, because it wasn't relevant. It was all good.
Well, that was good that you trusted that. You knew.
Yeah. You have to trust in your divine self. And I'm very spiritual that way, that when you're not aligned with your soul and your purpose, you're going to be paddling upstream. You're in the canoe and you're paddling upstream, and it's going to be work. And when you get into that flow and you're in the flow, you got it, and you nailed it. Yeah,
it's true. It does happen like that. It really does. So it's I just always hope that at some point I could catch it, because I feel I'm the person that's forces it, oh, keep going. And then you don't realize until you tap in and it feels amazing that you're oh, this is what it was supposed to be like.
Yeah. And
I still am always relearning that lesson.
Yep. And you forgot to eat, and all of a sudden, it's X amount of time in the afternoon, and you're going, ooh. Yeah. Then you go, nailed it. Yeah. So blocks of time are good too. So for me, working, the half an hour worked, but once I got into the meat of it, it was schedule that time. If you can sacrifice a morning on a Saturday, whatever your work schedule is do a block and do a meditation before you get into it. There's a ton of them out there on YouTube. If you don't do it yourself and you want a guided one, those are awesome too. Put yourself there. Then turn to your computer and start typing and let it in, and don't question it. Just keep typing.
Just keep going. Yeah, exactly. Just put it all down there. Exactly. That's so funny. That is interesting. That definitely is worth spilling the tea on. One of the biggest challenges that writers face all the time is, as they're writing, they're also editing and censoring their work. So I love your advice, Anne. Just dump it out on the page. It's the ultimate brain dump. Just keep putting it on the page. Yeah. It can be formed into something with a great editor later. Yeah. Even with the post I put out about us spilling tea today, it auto corrected your, which is incorrect. And I was like, I didn't see it. Or a friend reached out to me this morning and I said, okay, this is actual really great progress for me as a people pleasing, overcoming perfectionist all the time. I'm like, you know what? I'm not changing it because this is literally the number one reason what handicapped me for years of not pursuing my dream of becoming an author in my like 20s was because I'm not good at grammar. Right. And I always thought I had to like work so hard to get better at that. And I would like try to like shove myself into this world of that. Well, now we have autocorrect on our phone. We have all these great apps for that. So no one ever has to worry about that. And I'm not an editor. I'm never going to be an editor, but I can write really great stories and have other people edit them. And so that is, go ahead. Like the post is wrong, but it proves the point that you can still be an author if you have a dream in your heart and want to do it. You just go after it.
Yeah, the other thing they talked about at the Hay House Writers Workshop is that if you really struggle with the grammar and the physical writing, you can still be an author. You hire a ghostwriter. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just have you videotape. So you just talk. And then the ghostwriter comes in and puts the story together. Because there are people with, I use dyslexia as an example, not to say that you can't write your book, you can. I know we have one in our group. And do anything to help you get your story out. Yeah. You know, you have a story to tell, and that's the authorship of it.
Yeah.
And I fell into it. I have a wonderful editor, Bonnie McDermott, and her company, I believe, is Wordsmith Inc. And she and I just mesh. And she comes in and she makes it look pretty. You know, sometimes I get it and it's like, oh, great, this paragraph. I don't have to have anything to edit.
Well, I do have plans for my third book next year. So maybe I'll have to get her number from you because
that would be
I was like, I didn't like I had to publish, like, so I had a different publisher last time. And then with our Women Who Shine book, this is done by Kate Butler Books, and she has the editor on staff. So I don't have an editor that I've made a relationship with. So yeah, I would love one because I think that's the part I was missing, I think, from my first book last year.
Yeah. So when you can self-publish and do it all yourself.
I would never do that.
Right. I would never do that either.
I don't need any more jobs. I have enough businesses and titles with the kids and everything.
Well, you can definitely tell the end result from someone that has done it all themselves, and then having someone professionally come in and say, well, this concept back in this paragraph or this chapter over here is rather duplicative.
Yeah, like
it's repetitive. So they have a gift. Yeah. You know, and I admire editors so much because they do have a gift. They come in behind you and they might think of something because they put themselves as the reader and they go through and edit it that way.
Right.
Then they come back behind it and look at the grammar. And then behind my editor, I will have a proofreader. You know, so it's, if you think you're going to not spend money on writing a book, you're going to spend money writing a book. It's not, it's an investment.
Yeah, it's a business. Like anything
it
else.
Is. Yeah. And I don't look at writing the book as making me my core money. So it is supplemental, evergreen funds. And that's how I look at it. Not everyone can be a Jack Canfield. Not to say that you can't. We don't want to narrow it down. You can be anything you want to be. So cancel on that statement.
And I love Jack. Jack's actually somebody that inspired me to be a writer. The Chicken Soup for the Soul books were one of the first books that I read cover to cover, like as a teenager. My grandma gave it to me. So it's so funny that, that I have had the opportunity to meet him and Pat, like when that's literally as a child that didn't love reading and then eventually learned to love it, that Jack was a huge influence in my life. So that is so funny.
Yeah, he is awesome. Both he and Patty Aubrey, I've had both as teachers and highly recommend them as well. Very inspirational. But Patty Aubrey always said that she's like, no, the books are not going to make you money. They are going to give you a return on your investment, yes. But as far as making huge, huge dollars, look at it as supplemental income.
Yeah. I think if you have, a story to tell, or you have something like, the reason I wanted to write Beyond Common 12 Essentials for Success in Life in the Workplace is because that we figured out a system, like a methodology that worked, that made us very successful in the salon industry. And then I started observing what all the most successful people do, which is funny considering that Jack wrote the Success Principles, right?
Correct.
So of course I'm observing, studying, stuff like that. And so it was just like my very simplified way of saying, okay, of all the people that I've looked at in the world, if they all have these 12 essential qualities, so if everyone just does these things, you'll just be successful. It's like almost automatic. Yeah. And it's just very useful, especially right now, because they can be applied even in this virtual digital age. Is just really, peeling back the layers. And if you don't have the qualities naturally, which I don't have a lot of them naturally, but I surrounded myself with people that do and learned from people that do. So that was why it was just like, well, this helped me. Without surrounding myself with the people that were successful, I never would have achieved, my definition of success and in what in my, in the hairdressing industry and all the things that I was able to do. So for me, it was like, well, I want to help other people do this because it really is that easy to simplify the process. So I think when you have something that you're like, oh, it's selfish to share it. Like it's selfish not to share it. Like I didn't want to keep it to myself. I'm like, I need to give it away. So, that would be why it's a good idea to write a book then, correct?
Correct. So we had talked about Denise McCormick, so I'm going to bring Denise in on this. Denise is my success coach, and we're really hoarding. And this was what Denise brought forth. If we're not sharing our gift, then we're hoarding it.
Yeah.
And you're pinching yourself off. And I believe in exactly what she said, because when you hoard it and you keep it to yourself, you're not going to let your light out. And all the people that you can help. And the magic comes in is when you do start sharing it, all of a sudden things start coming to you. So maybe it's another book. Maybe it's an opportunity to speak. Maybe it's more clients. It's amazing when you voice your gift.
Yeah, it's true. My entire life and business has changed, just completely around since publishing my first book. It's hilarious. And I love every minute of it. It's been so exciting. And I'm so excited about, women who shine and what's next. But I never could have imagined it.
Right.
It was like beyond the scope of what I was even thinking.
Right. And if I ooze confidence right now, behind all that is not. It's huge because, like I told you before we started, I didn't even have a Facebook page a year ago. So it's being vulnerable and saying yes to yourself. And Donna Brown is another one. She's like, just say yes. Just say yes.
I didn't know. I know you said earlier that you didn't have a Facebook page. I didn't know it was just a year ago. I guess I didn't ask, but I'm like, wow, so you've done a lot in a year. Good for you.
I did. And that's one of the things that I have to do. And I would suggest this as you're writing your book, start a list of accomplishments. Finish chapter 1, finish chapter 2, write them out and post it in your workspace. Don't force yourself to look at what's not done. Look at what is done.
That's a good
because
idea.
That is a mood booster.
Yeah, that is true. It gets stuck. One of the biggest challenges I faced in getting my first book done was, it's like the opposite of what everybody tells you. And this is actually a funny story. So I had it in my head because Jack Canfield says this, John Maxwell says this, all the authors, that are out there that encourage you to write, just like, write, the first book's going to suck, just get it out there. Like, that's literally their advice, which is hilarious, right? I'm like, yeah, but that's because you're like a 1,400 times author, whatever. But the thing is that I started reaching out to publishers. I reached out to a few people I knew that were published authors, and I wasn't sure if Beyond Common needed to be just in the hair industry or if it was appealing to a wider audience. But I also knew enough from, running a successful business for many years. I also knew enough that when we try to talk to everybody, you talk to nobody, right? Then you can't stand out in the sea of sameness. So it was very simplistic. In the salon world, we are known for color and cut. We're really good at color. We didn't have to tell people that we cut hair because the word salon tells people that. This is my very simple way. But we really were known for color, and that was our forte. So we always talked about that. And it always attracted more people into the salon that just wanted a haircut, but they knew we were color experts. So I was putting that hat on, and I started reaching out to my friends that were published authors, and they got excited about the idea of this book. I'm yeah, I'm kind of trying to make professionalism sexy, which is odd, I know, but it's the idea that if we can show up as our best self, that's that shiny, bright version that we want to share with the world. These are the qualities, and it's sort of the soft skills that nobody tells you about. But these are the things, if you don't take the time to learn, you're not going to be successful, to what's important to you. So that feeling of success and fulfillment is very individually personal. So Beyond Common 12 Essentials is about walking you through what's yours, so that you can then share these skills with the world. And so I was prepared to get the 300 no's that everyone tells you. Oh, you're going to get the door, right? And I didn't. I had them actually want it. The publishers that I reached out to, they wanted it. And I was like, what? And I got really nervous. And so I stopped writing. I got so busy with, the salon's busy, the kids are busy. I literally became I hadn't been on a date in years because I've been married for so long, but I correlated it to a blind date. They sounded great on the phone, but I really don't want to see them in person because I'm nervous that we won't like each other. So I was like that. I was okay, so they're really excited about the book, but I'm just too busy. I was coming up with every excuse. And I don't think I realized it at the time, but it was my way of I was getting scared, and I didn't, I was I had to finish it. I had deadlines to meet, and then I just totally backed off. And it literally took another year to make it happen.
Yeah.
Because I was in such a funky mindset about it.
With the Hay House Writers Workshop, if you go through it, you can submit your work, and it puts you into the pool of how many thousands of people have taken the Writers Workshop, and you might win. You might. So I have not done that yet. And I made the decision to self-publish with a book coach. So not only with my editor, it was my book coach, Susie Schaefer. She has finished the book publishing. And I have not gotten into the phase with Susie yet. She hooked me up with the editor. So we're in that phase. And then the other thing, I don't know if you found as you were going to publishers, don't give up your rights, because some publishers will send $1 million check to you and they will own the rights to your book. So you really have to read the fine print. Do not give up your copyright.
I didn't. That was the one thing that thank goodness I had enough people that I mean, acquaintances, they weren't, but the great thing I discovered about, I think it's most people, but when I wanted to reach out to people that had been published, they were all so nice and willing to just jump on a call right away, and so giving and, supportive of their time. And it was really, really amazing. And then I was able to make the connections through that. But they didn't know me. They didn't have to, it was it's I met you 5 years ago at this event or party, whatever. And they were really great. So I think maybe the very first person, which was probably Tina Black. So if you're listening, Tina, thank you for that. She was the one who told me about do not give up your copyright. Make sure you own it.
Yeah.
before. And I was like, okay, so like, then I was like, that was my only thing I would say when I got on the call. Like, okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of all the advice that I've received too,
Yeah.
is don't give up that copyright.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's so true. So, one of the other things that I want to share with you guys that I think that you don't always see, like, right? Because especially we're talking about women who shine. It's bright and shiny, and it's amazing. And this, I had no idea what I was getting into. Like, I was so honored when Kate asked if I would want to be a part of this book, and I was like, oh my God, I would love it. I've had the opportunity to meet Anne and so many other amazing women. And this has been such a great experience, just so much more fun than kind of going at it alone. So if you are nervous, I would say do it this way first. It's really exciting. And just getting to know everybody makes you even more excited about reading their stories. So that's been awesome. But one of the major secrets I think that not everybody talks about is that, you have to give some stuff up. And you can't think that you're going to be running your business, taking care of your kids, publishing a bunch of books, like, and where something's not going to give, So for some people, you have to get up earlier, so I get up really early and I have the discipline of doing that, but it sucks. It's not like it's easy. It's like, you have to understand that there are things that have to wiggle. I was saying to Anne earlier, I'm like, I don't get my nails done. It's like, so you have to pick and choose what you're going to give up, but you're going to give up something. And sometimes that's going to be like, for a few months, you can't be as actively involved with your family and they might get upset. So you have to be ready to manage all these different like relationship things that pop up and be very clear about what you're doing and why you want it, and know that it's a trade-off of time, right? Everything is like, it comes down to time or money, but you're trading one or the other all the time.
My advice to that is get your immediate family on board. So the people that you cohabitate space with, get them on board and do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And I had a little pressure from outside. I mean, still family. I'm trying to say it poetically correctly, but it's not about them. It's about you. This is your journey. And if that ember down in your gut is smoldering and getting stronger and starting to turn into a flame, don't deny it. Because what you sacrifice during the time that you write the book, for me, it was sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep is valuable for me.
Like,
getting up at 4:30 in the morning sucked, but I did it.
Do it. Yeah.
It's something's got to give with that. So I do agree with you, but know that the reward when you do get it done, when I finally publish my book, I'm going to be doing a happy dance. And I am so glad that I was able to meet Tracy and slowly getting to meet the other authors. But this book is paving the way for both of us.
Yeah.
And it is such an energy knowing that you're partnered and you are coupled with such magnificent souls and you will impact the world. And that's pretty humbling to me. So it's pretty awesome, but pretty humbling.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yes. And you do have, I agree. You have to make sure your family's on board. And I'm very blessed in that way. My husband and my two boys, like, they're very supportive of the whole process. And they realize that, okay, we can't always, we're not going as many places. We're doing this because I have to write. So it's good to have everybody in your house cheering you on. And yeah, I can't say enough about the process of doing The Women Who Shine all together. It definitely has been such a joy. It really has. It really, really has. And do you have any other like tips that you want to share with everybody?
Just surround yourself with positivity. And, if you come across naysayers, just let it go and don't hang with them. You want to be empowered and get yourself a group, so if you haven't, enlighten yourself with a Maxwell or a Canfield, I would do that, because most of those people in those groups are either have written books and published them or are in the process of it. Not all of them, but I would say I bet 80%. When you think?
That's interesting. I don't know, because
I think it's a high percentage.
Because I didn't know that. Like for me, it wasn't like, how can I say? I didn't get involved with the group because I thought it was like an authors group at all. That was just like an organic thing that happened for me. I just joined a mastermind group. Because I do so much coaching and training, I'm always looking for ways to level up how I serve my clients. So,
Right.
I got involved in that, not thinking anything about that. But you're right when you say that. It seems like there's been a lot of authors within that, mastermind group that I was in with Jack Canfield. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the mindset with the Canfield and the Maxwells, Bob Proctor, all those programs that will help you wrestle with your own thoughts, so that you can tip it to you. Yeah. And it really is. I've heard people say, well, that sounds selfish. And it's like, absolutely. Because if you are not devoted to yourself and stay connected with that, this part of me, this is the physical part of me, but there's something inside me that's bigger than that. Absolutely. And that's what you're connecting with. So if you don't honor that, it's going to bug you, and it's going to keep knocking on your door, Right. So just stay true to yourself and your why. Why?
Well, it's true, because you figure out that you can't really serve those around you from that greatest place of goodness deep in your heart if you're denying yourself, right? Correct. Like it's like you can't like serve with as much love and abundance as you really want to. And when you said about making sure you get people in your life that are all about the mindset, I think people sometimes go into that stuff. And I think I was guilty of this early in my life, where I'd go to like a course and everyone's so motivated, and then I'd come back and I'd be mad at everybody around me that wasn't. And now I've learned to understand that it's not that they're not happy for you. They are just afraid. You like them, like when you have people around you that are like, oh, aren't you nervous? Or what if you fail? Or, oh my God, I can't believe you would make such a big change. Or what about this? They're not saying it because they don't believe in you. They just have their own fears, and you're making them uncomfortable. So you have to kind of remove yourself from that thought bubble, because you don't want any of it to get its hooks in your mind. You just have to like let it bounce off. Like I just am like, bless and release. Like they're entitled to their opinion, but I just have to let it like bounce off of me. Bless and release.
If you can team up to and find yourself an accountability partner, that's huge. And I attribute a lot of my success to that. I had an accountability partner in Reignite Your Life. And then I had one in Permission Granted. And then I had one in Breakthrough to Success. And the gal I have through Breakthrough to Success, I don't see that one splitting, because now she's a health coach. So when you learn that unconditional love, that's your core, because that's my breakthrough goal, is to love myself unconditionally by noon, December 31st, 2021. That is my goal with Denise. So It is a journey. And when you start to love yourself, all of a sudden that love goes out to everyone else. When you walk in and you see the toilet seat open in the bathroom, you go, oh, bless him.
Bless their heart.
Which mine doesn't do, thank God. But those simple things, I always feel sorry for my first husband. The expectation that I put on him was ridiculous. So I don't know, stories. So be true to yourself, and that unconditional love. And when you start to believe in yourself, love yourself, everything else looks entirely different, entirely. So honor yourself, write your book.
It's so true. Oh, I love it. So true. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that we were able to give someone out there some inspiration and just take the first step. It's National Book Lovers Day. Are you going to read anything today?
Yeah. Women Who Shine.
I know I put the cover on a book like this.
So did I.
Like just so I could like hold it. So, oh, you did too. Yeah, I was like, look, so excited. You did a good job. The kids and I were just playing around.
Oh, it was a challenge, but we did it.
Yeah, you did a good job. So yeah, it's exciting. So
yeah, to hold your first book in your hand.
Yeah, it's fun.
I would do that if you have your title and you kind of know what it is, even if you don't have it, make something up. So
yeah.
I did mine. I got to show you. I sketched mine out.
Oh, that's good. Mine had so many titles before it was a real thing. So many times. And
it's that Canfield principle of act as if. You know, act as if your book is done, and it is.
Yeah, and you're celebrating. Yep. And you're like, what are you going to do to celebrate? Well, I'm so grateful that you joined me for this. And if they're like, hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
It was a joy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So Anne, I'll share this and then tag you and then you can share.
Perfect.
Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any other questions, let us know because we'll come back on and do another one for you. Just write the first page. Like that's it, right? Just write the first page.
Yep.